Okay, now let me go over to Audacity and hit record. All right, count us in and start the intro. In 5, 4,
Yep.
3. Welcome to the Recovery Lab podcast. My name is Daniel Anderson. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a special guest today. His name is Mark, and help me with the pronunciation of the last name. Lundholm?
Lundholm. Yeah.
Lundholm. Okay. Awesome. Mark has been doing some incredible things, and we're just going to jump right into it today. Drew had to take care of some business, and so we're going to knock this out of the park today. You have been in and around the recovery community for years, so let's I'm just going to take a step back, and why don't you tell us what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, how you got involved with comedy, and I'll pick your brain as we go, but let's get rocking and rolling.
How long is this podcast? 6-7 hours? Is that what it is?
No, we actually were going to go 9 hours today, but you said that you could only go 6 today, so we're going to
go. So I'm glad you said that, because I have 2 stand-ins that I pay on a retainer to do stuff for me. They're younger than me. They look better, but they're not as funny. I listen. The story I have is like everybody else who's ever traded time, tools, talent, trust for a bag or a bottle or a behavior that doesn't work anymore. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of highlights and lowlights and details and intricacies and little peccadillos that I have that maybe some other people don't have. But if you speak from the heart, anybody in recovery, the heart understands what the heart says. Right. If you see one, you be one, kind of thing. So here's the story. I drank, did dope, and had behaviors that were addictive because they felt awesome. Mm-hmm. And then the bar was lowered. I did those things because they felt great. Right. And then I continued to do them because they felt good. And then I continued to do them because they felt better than when not doing them. And then I continued to do those. See, I'm not in the picture anymore. I continued to do them because they felt normal. Right. We went from awesome to now we're at normal, and it's only been a year or two. I continued to do those things, and the bar is way lower than the picture now because they made me feel numb. And then I continued to do the behavior or the bag or the bottle I'm addicted to, affected by, distracted with, until it made me feel nothing. And then I became nothing. And I continued to do those 3 things anyway: the bag, the bottle, or the behavior, the 3 B's, we call them in my house. Right. I continued to do those things until it was bottom after bottom after bottom after bottom. And pretty soon bottom hit me. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Everything I have now.
What was it? What was your bottom like? Tell us about your bottom. What was the final bottom? I'm sure if you're like anything like me, you had multiple bottoms that got progressively worse as they went along. But what was the final straw on the camel's back that really brought you?
The last day out there for me, wondering and guessing and trying to have my plan, was October 19th, 1988. I put a gun in my mouth and pulled the trigger. I weighed about 122 pounds. I was at a $6 an hour motel room in a place called Hayward, California. It's in Northern California. They rented rooms by the hour or by the half hour.
Yeah, they did.
And I put the gun in my mouth, pulled the trigger, and the gun jammed. And I thought, man, I suck at everything. Right? so that was it. And that night, that was late at night. That night, I was at a 12-step meeting I'd heard about from before. Right. And I went in there, and it was a candlelight meeting, which I was glad about because the lights weren't bright, and I could sit there and snot and cry and ooze fluids for an hour because I was a street guy, and I had broken into that motel room. I didn't have 6 cents, let alone $6. But I sat through that meeting, and after that, somebody gave me money to put me on a bus to go to Oakland. I was born and raised in Oakland, California. And I went to the hospital in Oakland. It was a psych ward that had a drug and alcohol unit. So that was it. My clean date, sobriety date, in remission date. 12-step people are a little particular about their language, man. It always makes me laugh. You know, we'll shoot dope with toilet water with strangers, but then we want to tell them how to talk.
Right.
But October 20th, 1988. So years and years and years ago, bottom hit me.
Right.
I didn't see it coming. I wasn't welcoming it, but I knew I just didn't have any other kind. I was out of plan.
Right.
So the best I could do ever in hindsight, you know, you talk about what it was like, what happened, what it's like now. In some circles that we're familiar with, they call it experience, strength, and hope. And
right.
Experience, strength, and hope. If you're a newcomer or an old timer or an in-betweener, you know that experience, strength, and hope stands for basically what we did, what we changed, you can too. That's all it means. What we did, what we changed, you can too. Right. So I got to a stage where I had no more, I didn't have 60 more seconds of a plan, and suicide on layaway, which is the best I could do with my plan, became suicide right now, right away. Right. And that was it. So 30 plus years ago, that was that. And now everything I have that I value or love or care about or protect is a direct result of being a drunk, addict, street guy, criminal, less than you, but better than you kind of mentality.
Right.
So comedy is the way out for me. That was the way out for me. I started doing comedy very early in my recovery, which I wouldn't recommend to anybody.
Yes, man. It's incredibly hard, bro. Like,
well,
we went to the Comedy Cellar, and let me just tell you, the most incredible experience I've ever experienced in my life. Just people there laughing, someone on stage, just putting it all out there. It is hard. And for you to do that in early sobriety just blows my freaking mind. How did you not go and get messed up after, bombing one night or whatever?
You know, that's what? Yeah, no, that's listen, I ate piles of it many times early on because I didn't know what I was doing. And typical Mark Lundholm is, I don't ask people for help, you know. I've learned since that the best 7 words you can learn how to say, at least in English, right? I speak 90 languages, but in English, I said 90, that's right. 90. But I speak English, and in English, the 7 greatest words I've ever learned are, I don't know, can you help me? Yeah. I don't know, can you help me? Goes from, geez, in the day we thought, I don't know means I'm stupid. Can you help me means I'm weak. Stupid and weak. I'm not telling you that. Exactly. These days, I know whether you're a newcomer, old timer, in-betweener, it's better to be a newcomer than a no-comer, by the way, if you're listening. The no-comers are all dead. We buried them. Right. And we continue to bury the no-comers. The newcomers have another way to a better day. And it's not the one you planned. But if your plan was working, you'd never met us. You know, so I don't know, can you help me became the mantra of, I'm going to ask for help, because I don't know, can you help me doesn't mean stupid and weak anymore. I don't know means I'm teachable. Can you help me means I'm willing. So teachable and willing, that guy stays sober. That comic thrives. That guy gets work. I've got more work than I know what to do with. I turn down more work every year than most comics get asked to do because I have a special niche. Right. You know, I did the clubs and the improv and TV and Showtime and all kinds of public stuff. I still do fundraiser, TV, YouTube, Instagram, all that public, social media, all the media stuff, right. Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, all those, right? Yeah. So, but I love the work I get to do with the inmates, the soldiers, the astronauts, the kids. Families caught in a crossfire. I do about 800 hours a year of clinical comical group where we talk about relapse prevention or trauma survivor stuff, or the skills we got from the thrills we didn't get. It's all wording that I've written, put together in a package that I'll go into a treatment center and I'll do 6 hours with their patients or their residential or their IOP or PHP population. And Not because I'm smart. It's not because I'm a special per se. I'm not discounting what I do, but because of the humor. They will tell me things they've never told another human being on the first day they met me. They'll tell me stuff they won't tell their parents or their priests, because if we can laugh about it, we can talk about it.
Right.
And humor has a way of raising trust and truth and lowering shame in the same fucking joke.
Yeah.
So it's hard in the beginning though, man. I hope they laugh, or I want to make sure they understand the joke. I wasn't writing from my point of view. I was writing from everybody else's, but that's because I'm a codependent kid. I hope they get it. I hope it's explained well enough. I got to make it palatable for them so it doesn't go past them. Now I write from my point of view, which is there's a secret in comedy that's not a secret. Every comedian you've ever heard about who's worth a damn has a very specific point of view. If I give you 3 words, you can tell me what comic I'm thinking of. You ready?
Yeah. I'll give it a shot.
You ready? All right.
Yeah.
Clean, quirky, lesbian.
Ellen DeGeneres?
Absolutely the fact. Everything she does is from a point of view that is that person. Now, I'm not talking about the rainbow point of view so much, but not afraid of it, not unwilling to talk about it, and absolutely part of who she is, right?
Right.
For years, she wouldn't do that.
Right.
She was actually in a movie called Mr. Wrong. She was going to be an actress. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Turns out every guy for her was Mr. Wrong, right? so it's funny, and I know her a little bit. I've worked with her, and it's a 3-word point of view. They call it POV in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. Any comedian, they want you to have a point of view. The Foo Fighters have a point of view. Van Halen had a point of view. Queensryche has a point of view. Christian rock point of view. Mine is 2 words: restrained aggression. That's all I ever write from. Restrained aggression, because I'm an angry guy. I grew up in a house where you learn to fight or you were the bullseye.
Right.
So I wouldn't wish my childhood on a cellmate I hated. But
right, but it made you who you are today, and that guy is somebody that's freaking incredible.
Everybody you're going to talk to on every podcast episode you do has that same story.
Right.
There's 3 levels of recovery. This is all point of view opinionated. But you asked me to be the guest, so I'm going to talk like me.
Yeah.
There's 3 levels of recovery acceptance. There's 1, early in recovery. And I don't know how many years this takes for it to change into level 2 or level 3. But level 1, I realize I can't change the past. You get that.
Right. I
realize I can't change it. The second level of recovery, a deeper understanding, is, you know what? I'm going to use the past I can't change to outline a better set of boundaries, parameter, or path for me. The GPS I'm on now is because I know what not to do.
Exactly.
That came from reference and experience, which is, I realize I can't change it. Level 2 is, I'm going to use what I can't change as a guideline to, at least I got a not to do list now. Yeah. Then there's the 3rd level. I wouldn't change a second of my existence, even if I could magically, because it would make me less than, aware less than, grateful less than I am now. I don't want to be less than ever again.
Right.
So that 3rd level of understanding of recovery is, and talk to any old timer you want to. Definition of an old timer in my food chain, the pack of gorillas I travel with in the 12-step groups. The definition of a old timer for me is anybody with 10 years more than me. So I'll never be one. So I'm talking like Uncle Shitty here sometimes to new people, but there's certain things we don't dance around as far as the truth goes.
Right.
And one of them is grateful never relapses. Well, I'm grateful for the trash past I had. I'm grateful for the bags and bottles I don't see ever again. And I spent thousands and millions of minutes on them. So it's not worth it to go back and try to redo the past. It's certainly not worth it to blame the past. But you get to a 3rd stage level of recovery where you go, hey, you know what? I wouldn't change a second of it. The times I was embarrassed, the times I got hurt, the times I bled, the times I crushed somebody's spirit, the times I embarrassed myself on stage early as a comedian. I didn't have to do that again. There's a redo that's not necessary if you understand what you did.
Right.
And we're not in the blame stage. When you first started doing a couple podcasts, right? Were you great at it right away?
No, and I still suck. I still feel like I suck from time to time, but it's something that I love, I'm passionate about, and I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that I'm going to have to bomb. I'm going to have to be not great so I can learn how to be great. So it's absolutely, no, I'm not.
Well, listen, experience. I never learned anything from doing a good show. I didn't. I never learned anything in a relationship from having it kick ass and everybody's getting off and we don't fight or argue or learn. So there's no learning there, right? So tell you a quick story. I did a one-man show in New York. I wrote a play called Addicted, a comedy of substance. You can find that on YouTube too. But we did 9 shows a week, one-man show, 9 shows a week for a year. And I missed one night of shows, 2 shows on a Friday because of weather. I was on a train and no trains were running. The snow was too bad. So the whole time I missed 2 shows and it was on the same night and everybody missed the show. Nobody could get to the theater. So I was pretty proud of the work, but here's about that sucking thing. My producer who worked for what's now Clear Channel, right? I mean, Live Nation, it used to be Clear Channel. They were the producers along with William Morris. They were the producers of the play. And she was a hard case, thick-skinned alligator, reptile exterior producer. She took no shit from nobody.
Right.
And she came backstage after opening night and she was crying. And she said, "You broke my heart." And I said, "But how?" She goes, "I wanted to be mad at you because I knew you were going to fuck up at least once during the show and you didn't."
Wow.
And every night after that, when she would come to the show, she'd bring people in. I mean, we had celebrities that would come out to see this little show, 112 seats off Broadway. We had names that were New York people, right? You'd see them on TV or they're on Saturday Night Live or something. They'd come see the show because it was there long enough for people to talk about. And not about me, but about the show. It's really good. But she would come in and she'd bring some big, huge star and they'd come back before the show. They always do that. And every time she'd say the same thing to me. When the person would leave the room, a name that I'm going, "Oh my God, they're here? Uh-oh." She'd come over and she'd say, "Hey, come here. She'd go, "Don't fucking suck." Every time. And that was our joke. And it turns out that wasn't her joke with me. That's a theater joke. Don't suck. Right. Without the expletive. But don't suck. It's like hardcore humor, as in anybody can say break a leg. In comedy, we say break a lip. Break a leg. You know where that came from?
I don't.
Break a leg is in theater, they have the main, they have the backdrop, and then they have those side curtains that only go halfway onto the stage. Right. Those are called legs. Back in the day, if you were a supporting cast member and you got to go past that onto the main stage, you got more money. So they would wish each other break a leg, meaning you get to be on main stage, just one of the supporting cast on the side, you're a tree or something.
That's awesome.
So I said all that to say this. Your show, somebody out there who's just starting a trade school, somebody out there who's starting their own business, somebody in there who out there listening who's early in recovery, your first 12 days, your first 6 months, you're gonna fuck up.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't take that as a shameful me based, I don't deserve this or I can't have this, I'll give you a little shortcut. When the world says no to you, to me, they don't mean not yet. They mean not now. And that's a subtle difference. Not yet means someday. No, it means not now. And what happens now instead is, am I convinced? Am I convicted? I'm Daniel, and I'm new at this podcast thing, or I'm Mark and I'm new at this comedy thing, or I'm Mark, I'm new at this falling in love thing. We're learning how to trust a sponsored thing, or being a neighborly person. Turns out, Daniel, I'm going to drop this early. The podcast. I don't really like people. I don't like them. I don't. It turns out I'm not real social. I'm an introvert. I'm a trauma survivor. So I've got a bubble around me that says, unless I'm in front of a crowd, I don't want to be in it. Now, that's a failure.
I have to stop you right there, because
you sound like my parole officer right now.
I feel the exact same way. I love helping people, but I also love being just real quiet, and so this is, and I'm, if you were to just look at me, you'd be like, oh, he's an extrovert. No, I am a complete introvert, I know that in order for me to be able to connect to people like I want to, that I have to be loving and caring and listen to people. So I am 100% with you on that. 100%. And it makes me feel so good that you said that.
Well, the introvert part is a layer. I like the word levels when I write. Like I'll do levels of language today in your podcast. We talked about it prior to. Nobody knows what we're going to say. You and I don't know. We said we'd do this off the cuff with no prep. But I did ask you on the phone earlier today, hey, what's the language boundary? And you said whatever. Well, I'll use a level of curse word, and I'll use a level of PG, or a level of Disney related language, or a level of catechism, or a level of recovery. The word levels is how I write and live. There are levels of trust, levels of truth, levels of income, levels of responsibility. There are levels of interaction with people.
Right.
Every day when I leave my home, I'm at risk. That's the creature in me. That's the antenna. If you're a trauma survivor out there listening, I have a question for you that's loving and kind and fair. And it took me years, so I want to save you some time. Trauma kids, what will you do with what was done to you? Because there are gifts in trauma. I'm funny as hell because of trauma. I'm an actor because of trauma. I can pretend to like people because I've done trauma. The work we do to survive what was done to us, because let's be honest, any trauma kid out there will have to admit at some point, you traumatized you a lot longer than they did. Chemically, spiritually, physically. If you did to a child, let's say somebody's new and let's take you and I, Daniel. We don't like people, so forget them. How long did you spend punishing yourself chemically, trying to be your own pharmacist or therapist or cop?
20 years.
Okay, so if you had done to a child what you did to Daniel for 20 years, you'd be in a penitentiary. That's reckless endangerment of a minor. That's long-term felony. And I'll tell you what happens is we forget that. We conveniently forget that we abused us. We abused us longer than anyone else in our life. There could be an original sin. Me, I was 5, right? Wasn't my fault, wasn't my part. I had no chance to protect. But after that, when I'm 12, when I'm 15, when I'm 18, when I'm 24, when I'm 29 and a gun in my mouth, that wasn't him.
Right.
We've persecuted ourselves a lot longer than the person who taught us that language. So I'm not blaming anybody, but I'm not letting anybody off the hook either.
So what's that line? How do you forgive for you? Where does that forgiveness come from? And how's that?
I'll tell you what, I wrote a book. Okay. It's called Shortcuts, Better Ways to Better Days. You can get it on Amazon or Audible, or the best place to get it is recoverybookstore.com. It'll cost you very little. I don't make any money out. It's nonprofit, but it's the funniest book you'll read this year. You have my word. It's called Shortcuts, Better Ways to Better Days. And one of the chapters in there is freedom starts with forgiveness, because what you don't forgive, you will become. Now, the line you talk about, we're not talking about giving that person a pass. We're not talking about a total clemency or no ownership of what they did, but we can't do that stuff for them.
Right.
The forgiveness I gave to people, that guy, other people like him, anybody in my path, even on a minimal level of punishment or poor treatment of Mark Lundholm, any forgiveness I give, it's for me. It's for me. How long are you going to continue to do that guy's job once he wronged you? How long? How long do you want to hold him hostage and you both in your head when you could be creative, thinking of more topics to do a podcast on, chasing whatever partnership you like sexually? You've got conquests to make, Danny. You're still a young guy. You got a nice beard. Go get some. So we get to grow out of the victim stage.
Right. Which is so powerful, man. It's so powerful.
We don't know we have permission to do that until somebody like you tells them, or I tell them. I got sponsees that just, how do you do that? Well, you just start doing it.
Right.
Nobody's going to say, well, it starts on October 11th, 3 months from now, you graduated a stage of forgiveness. Say it now, even if you don't mean it. I forgive you and I don't need a reason. But freedom starts with forgiveness, because what I don't forgive, I became a perpetrator, a punisher. To me, I treated me worse than you ever could, Daniel. If you talked to me in the most foul thing you could say to me right now, I've already done it. I did it worse. I did it at the right time instead of just a casual, easy time for you. I've already crucified me, right? So at some point, I had to tell myself, Mark, get off the cross. We need the wood, man. Let's go. So it's not easy. But if it was easy, we wouldn't need sport groups or this podcast or Recovery Lab. We wouldn't need Mark's book. We wouldn't need comedy. It's not easy to do. But once you do it, you realize how simple it could have been.
Right. It's such a wonderful perspective of thinking about how many years we've been using and how many years that we have been completely beating up ourselves. There's nobody that's more difficult to or harsh towards us than our insides about them, and it's just, I've never really thought about it that way. Like 20 years of beating the shit out of myself.
Yeah. Physically, verbally, emotionally, spiritually,
right.
The stuff we've kept ourselves from, the things we've put our face in, chemically, that just destroyed self-esteem and any kind of hope or relationship or emotional growth. It's cataclysmic how we treat ourselves. And then somebody, the selectivity always makes me crack up with recovery people, and I'm one of them. So I'll say this about us, our family. I'm not speaking for anybody, but I know this about our family, and you do too, that we're very selective about where we place blame.
Right.
You'll withstand 20 years, Daniel. I'll withstand 20 plus years of personal, horrible abuse, me on me. And then you can hurt my feelings with a sentence, you bastard. You know what I mean? I get really offended by a word when I spent years burying myself in words.
Right.
It's like somebody will say, I've withstood years of physical abuse. I'm a trauma survivor. But I lost my self-esteem when they didn't elect me coffee maker at my home group. It's hilarious, but I'm not laughing at the person or their pain. I'm laughing at the insanity, the cuckoo up here that says, I still think crazy, but I'm in recovery too. Right. And that's step 2. That's the insanity part. They get to sanity pretty quick in the steps. They didn't wait till step 10.
Right. Yeah. No.
They didn't wait till 6.
Yeah.
To that other list. Yeah. They at 2, they went, now that you put this shit down, guess who's loco, motherfucker?
Right. Yeah, the alcohol and the drugs are just symptoms. I mean, when we take those away, we're still left with all of that stuff inside our head. So that when you take the stuff away, that's when the work actually begins. It's because we're still there. Like those people are still there. They're just those people that are messed up and have trauma and all sorts of, emotional baggage, except now we don't have those chemicals that were for some time working to numb all of that crap that was inside us. So now we have to learn how to live a life without all of that stuff. And that is a tall order for a lot of people. It was for me. It was absolutely for me.
And it's here's a shortcut. When I say shortcut, I'm talking about time saver, not less work, not half step in the process, not, geez, I'm only giving 20% today because I'm tired. Shortcut means less time. Let me save you some time getting from here to heroic. The 3 B's that we deal with are bag, bottle, and behavior. We're addicted to, distracted by, obsessed with a bag, a bottle, or behavior. And if you don't change the 3rd B, you always go back to the first 2.
Yeah, that's good.
You can change your behavior, or you have to change your date one more time. If you change your date, it's because you didn't change your behavior. If you change your behavior, you don't change your date. So the 3rd B is the biggest one. And it's that dry drunk, that plug in the jug mentality that says, well, I quit doing what I was doing. I quit the Coke. I quit the pills. Yeah, but there's a dishonesty issue. There's a relative abuse that you still talk to yourself like you're a negative 15-year-old victim in a house where you have to live.
Right.
There's certain things we still do behavior-wise, arrogance, ego. I mean, I can't count the times I've lost work because the work was solid, but my ego was too big. Or I got my feelings hurt and I acted out instead of acted grown up. Still, like I'm 63 years old, right? 63. I get to do things that change my behavior, or my behavior doesn't change and I'm already in relapse mode.
Right.
You know, relapse starts with the first thought. First thought wrong. I make a living on first thought wrong. First thought wrong. If I do one, it proves I'm not addicted. First thought wrong. If she doesn't find out, I wasn't cheating, right? First thought wrong. I'm in the front of the plane and booze is free in the front. And it's 6 in the morning and I've never had a mimosa. I got sober before Zima. I don't know what a mimosa is. No, I don't know K2, Molly, bath salts, bars, dabs. I remember Quaaludes, you know. I remember buying weed in a shopping bag this big for $6.
Yeah.
Right. But older addicts, we change, man. We go from acid to antacid. You know, we go from cocaine to Rogaine. You know,
Right.
I'm not what I used to be, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm grateful that I was that guy.
Yeah.
Because the mentality is what I write from and dig deep into when I'm working with new people. When I'm working with new people, I speak, one of the languages I speak is newcomer. I speak old timer. I speak heterosexual male. I speak rainbow fluently. I'm fluent in female. I speak normie. I speak corporate. I speak Disney. I speak 90 languages. All of us speak more languages than we say, right, than we tell the public, because we don't expand our definition of, oh, language. Silence is a language.
It can be a powerful language. Silent
scorn. How many times have you just shut that person down with no words and a look? That's a language, right? Open-mindedness is a language. Recovery is a language. Dharma, smart, refuge, celebrate. Those are all recovery languages, different dialects of ownership of, hey, I'm the problem. Dope was a symptom. I'm the problem. I don't like myself enough to do self-care. So you pick up the tab for my behavior. Self-care is a language. Forgiveness is a language. Comedy is a language, you know. There's so many languages we speak that we really don't focus on. But if we learn what languages to minimize and not forget, so we run into somebody who's a bully. I remember what it's like to speak bully. I remember being bullied. So there's 2 levels of language there that when I run into a bullying group, he or she doesn't win. Ever. Ever. I never lose a fight in group because I don't have one. Shortcut. The argument you win is the one you don't enter. So I never argue in group, ever. You know, name calling or somebody stands up and wants to take a swing at me in group, which has happened more than a handful of times because tempers flare and emotions are popping up. Shortcut. If you're new, when you get angry early on, good. Your body's starting to tell you the fucking truth again.
Right. Yeah.
You get feelings because they're coming back.
Right.
The numbness is wearing off. You know, that local anesthesia that you use, some chemical or that, you know, total anesthesia we were under, that numbness, it's wearing off. And you're going to start feeling really sad, really angry. And if we do that till we're through that, we get some kind of truth level that works. We get some kind of language that's new. like a guy, this just happened a few weeks ago in an undisclosed location because of HIPAA. This particular celebrity, I was working somewhere, I was working in a treatment center.
Okay.
And this celebrity says, you've never done anything in your career. And I said, that's one way to say it. That's all I said. You know, tell me what you do. I got 2 statues. How about you? And I said, statues. You know, I got this thing of the Eiffel Tower, like, and the group laughed because they were tired of this prick anyway. But I didn't have to get personal. I owned it. I owned it. Pretty soon he ran out of gas.
Right.
All I said to him afterwards was when he said, I said, anything else? He goes, no, I'm done. I said, let's hope you're done. Let's hope you're done, because this yeah, but stuff, that's a language that doesn't work so well. And let's be honest, the best you could do so far, your way, was get to this treatment center and have a bed to stay in the night.
Exactly.
Best you could do.
I mean,
and that's not an argument. That's not minimizing him. That wasn't calling him names. But shit, 25 years ago, I would have had 9 years sober. I would have knocked his teeth down his throat.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't capable of that kind of calm. When somebody takes me on, I'm back on the yard in prison. As soon as I hear loud, as soon as somebody gets close, as soon as that finger's in my face, you know, I'm making a fist, right? I'd rather throw a fight than a party, but I can't do that because it doesn't work for the behavior change necessary to stay sober. Right. You change your behavior or you change your sobriety date. One of those is going to change today. Anyway, that sounded like too many words there. Let me ask you a question about you.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Let me ask you a question about you. How does it feel like, would you rather today, right now, would you rather have partners in the studio working with you, or would you rather just do this you and I one-on-one?
I don't know. I'm having a blast right now. I gotta be perfectly honest. This was something that I was afraid of because it's uncomfortable. It's new. It's not uncomfortable. It's new. And my go-to response to something that could be new and difficult and I could fail at is to retreat and don't do anything and just go and hide and get fucked up and do some drugs and hide from the world. That's my normal response. So in sobriety now, I still feel those feelings, but today I don't react to those feelings. So instead of running home and hiding in the closet and drinking some Zimas and numbing to because I'm afraid, I just was like, okay, well, if this is the circumstances, this is what we're doing. And God, you know, I reached out to a couple people to see if they could co-host and nobody was available. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is God wanting me to grow, to do something different, to just grow. So it was at that moment that I just kind of let my guard down. I was like, okay, well, let me call Mark and let me just talk to him about what's going on, and just let him know the situation. And it was from that moment where I decided, okay, I'm not going to be afraid of this. I'm going to go and do the best possible job that I can. And that's something that I was not able to do while I was drinking and using. I would just retreat. So it's, I don't know if that answers your question, but you know, this was scary for me. This was scary. I mean, you came to Copac years ago. I don't know if you remember. Did you remember coming to Copac?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
They became the ranch at Mississippi.
Right. My wife actually worked there for 11 years. So
yeah, they were one of my accounts early on.
Yeah. And Bernard Mathern said,
I love him. Love that guy.
Yeah. But yeah, well, so you know,
that dude knows his stuff. He's a great director.
Yeah. He was on the podcast. What was that? 2-3 weeks ago or so.
You know what?
Just an awesome dude.
I'm glad you brought his name up. I probably owe him at least a text hello and stuff. Good guy. Good guy. One of the best.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Raising a family, going back to school for a master's degree so he could have his own gig.
Right.
Pretty sharp. Listen, that you know, when you're nervous about something, when we're awkward, uncomfortable, nervous, that means it matters.
Right.
That means it matters. Comfortable kills recovery people. Comfortable kills us. We coast. Coasting isn't coping, and life's an incline anyway. If you're not climbing up, even gradually, to a next level, you're not growing. And coasting on an incline means I go back to the bottom. And after years of being up the grade a little bit, that's a tough place to land bottom again.
Right.
So the longer you've been around, the harder you hit when you hit bottom, if you do. Otherwise, you cope, not coast. And the getting along thing, and it's easy. When was the last time you something happened to you that was perfect and you learned something? I mean, it just, we can appreciate it for what it's for, but comfortable kills addicts.
Right.
Kills it. Uncomfortable is where the body, the mind pays attention to, okay, is there a threat here? Am I the threat here? I mean, let's go back to caveman days, right? If that's not too sexist. You go back to the early days of when we were a clan, right? It matriarchal. And she was the leader of the clan, and she decided when to hunt, when to celebrate, when to mate, when to move, when to stop, raise a family, all that stuff. Well, uncomfortable was when somebody threatened that safety sanctuary thriving. Now, there's a reason they got nervous or uncomfortable. They heard a sound, they saw a thing, they had a feeling. When we do something that's new, if we're not nervous or a little bit anxious about it, your body's not telling you the truth. Somebody asked me, are you nervous? I was going on to this, I was going to do this thing. And it was fairly big. And they said, are you nervous? I said, I'm anxious. I want to go to work, but I'm paying attention. My antennae are straight up. I'm ready to, oh, so you are nervous. I said, yeah, you want to call it that? Yeah, I'm not scared to do this, which they didn't ask for. But nervous doesn't mean scared. Nervous means aware.
Right.
Now, what we panic and paralyze ourselves with is I let nervous and aware and cautious and visible and vigilant become panic. And that's just from experience. The next time you host one of these on your own, you're going to cruise. You're doing it now. You know what I mean? Did you have a throw up bucket just in case on the side?
No, I felt fairly comfortable that this would, I don't know. Once I made that decision that, all right, we're going to do this. And I said a little prayer and asked God to direct my thinking and my words. It just kind of, the fear kind of melted away.
Let me ask you another question. 12-step people. And I'm one of those. I'm not here to pimp for any program, right? I don't recruit, but I'm an AANA guy, right? On a podcast, I can say that because this is a recovery podcast. It's no guessing here, but I'm bisexual, right? I go to both. So I wrote that joke in 1986. You can have that. But when you speak, okay, let's say you go to some place where you're asked to speak. You ever finish speaking and you can't remember almost anything you said?
Yeah, absolutely.
That means it wasn't your words. You were a conduit. You were a channel. That means you told the truth. If you can remember everything you said verbatim, it was canned, it's a pitch, it's that ABC stone tablet version that Moses brought down off the mountain that we have to live by. I know people that have the same share every time they open their mouth because they want to impress. What I will always, like you did today, you said, I said a prayer, turned it over, we're going to do this. Somebody will say to you, I guarantee it's happened to you already. You've been around a little while, yeah? Okay. So somebody has said to you, hey, 4 years ago, you were at such and such, and I heard you say, and they quoted you, and you go, I said that? Yeah. It wasn't you talking, but it wasn't supposed to be you talking. A lot of times I'll say something in group or I'll write something down that's divinely inspired because I'm an open channel and I'm comfortable not having to know every damn thing. Right. I got a big ego, but I don't know anybody that can command a room full of 20,000 people in an arena that doesn't have a big ego. Pitbull's got a big ego. Lady Gaga's got a big ego. But if it's right sized, you're the right person during that pitch, during that right time. Your sponsor has a big ego. Got to. To deal with a knucklehead like you and me, our sponsors have to have a big enough ego to say, I like myself not enough to put up, I like myself enough to put up with this kid, but no more. We get ego's a fantastic thing. Pride is a fantastic thing. but an overdose of either of those things, and we're a wreck.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I have a personal opinion shortcut that there are no defects and there are no shortcomings. There's no step 7.5. So they're never removed. What we do is shift our gift. You know, shift our gift. I give you a comedy version here. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So Daniel, do you procrastinate?
I do. I do.
Okay. You know, that's an overdose of patience, Daniel. That's all it is.
Thank you.
Are you
Let me
are you
explain that to my
judgmental?
wife real quick.
Are you judgmental?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an overdose of awareness of someone else's failings. Daniel, did you say you're married? Are you married?
I am.
Okay, so who's the boss at home, Daniel?
My pride wants to say me, but the reality is,
Well, I knew the answer as soon as you said, yeah. Is the male transmission of the brain trying to locate neutral during a question. Yeah, that's one of the things did you ever go to jail, Daniel?
I did.
Okay, so here's what you
Few
don't
times.
do in court. Here's what you don't do in court. How do you plead, Daniel? You never in court, man. You ain't going home that night.
Right.
So it's funny how we laugh at this stuff we used to be just crushed by, you know,
Sure.
going to jail,
Oh.
having an intimate relationship with somebody who, a joke right out of the show. This is a little gratuitous, but you ever had such low self-esteem? I mean, low, that you're making love to her and you think, I can't trust her. Look at the choice she made. You know, it's an overdose of gifts or an underdeveloped gift that is the shortcoming behavior. But God wouldn't make us flawed. He made us perfectly broken. We got to figure out the way the machine works to get it to be a gift. I'm very reactionary. I'd be a great EMT. I'd be a fantastic soldier. I don't wait. Now the overdose of that is I butt in where I don't belong.
Right.
Or I rush to judgment. That's great during a fire, but not everything's a fire, Mark. You know, I'm a helicopter hover and cover father, right? My ex-wife and I, the plaintiff, that most expensive joke of the show right there. Yeah, she's one of my best friends on the planet. She's got 27 years sober.
Sweet.
And we raise a 16-year-old kid because there's no ex-children in a divorce. So we're very good friends. But if we live together even for a weekend, because sometimes we'll travel together,
sure,
the three of us, you know,
Mhm.
and even after 2 days, we'll look at each other across the breakfast table and go, I'm so fucking glad. You know what I mean? Honest to God, it's not about her. It's not about me. It's about a we. You know, we were not a good long-term marriage of two people who were committed to each other as much as they were to themselves. And I'm going to be speak for me in that my career was the most important thing to me during that marriage, and that wasn't fair to her.
Right.
Now we had a child, and he still has the burden of having a dad who's obsessed with work.
Right.
You know, and I relapse emotionally around him quite a bit when I'm too tired, when I'm in halt, I haven't eaten right, and I'll say, Grayson, a little too loud, and he'll go, Dad, do you need to eat? Do you need a meeting? Are you okay? You want to call your sponsor? And he was doing that when he was 5. And my first thought wrong was, why did I ever have a kid?
Yeah.
Why did I have sex with your mother? Why couldn't she have said no that weekend? Why couldn't she make me sleep on the couch that Saturday? No, he was conceived in the shower, right? So that's back when I used to bathe every day, Daniel. Remember? Too much? Was that too much? All right. So if they haven't turned the podcast off already, there's hope in all that stuff where we really embarrassed ourselves or we really failed miserably, way short of expectations of other people. And their expectations were realistic because we put them there.
Right.
I put expectations in your mind if I tell you I'm going to do a certain thing. Now, that's called trust, or the 15th time I do it and you're still buying it, that's trauma. So there's a lot of levels of stuff that recovery will provide just by making a poor decision once.
Right.
Over and over expecting different results. That's the definition of
Insanity.
no 49ers fan. But hey, see what I did there? Hey, you see the Raider?
Oh, wait. I've got this. There we go. Had a little rim shot there.
Oh, did you? Here's
Yeah,
my
yeah.
Raider wall. Here's
Oh,
my,
nice.
guys, you see that? I was born and raised, I'm an Oakland Raider fan. Once they moved to LA, I quit watching them.
Yeah.
I just couldn't take it. But I got 12 Hall of Famers there. It's a Hall of Fame Raider wall. It's one of my, it's right inside the front door. As soon as I walk in and look at that, I'm a 6-year-old kid going to see the Raiders play on a grass field in a high school when they were doing summer camp. You'll never see that again as long as you live. But that's because I'm older, So I got stuff in my home that reminds me of really good times, because I got stuff in my head that reminds me of unannounced, really bad times.
Sure. But again, all of that stuff you can now use for good.
Well, and that's the third level of recovery. I wouldn't change a second of it if I could, because it would make me less than whole now, or less than here now, or less than helpful or healthy now. I'm not a healthy guy because I still have first thought wrong, second thought wrong, third thought wrong, fourth thought. You ever have first thought wrong, Daniel?
Absolutely.
Okay. If I can get it for a good price, I should do it again. First thought wrong. Why did you cheat? Well, because that other one said yes.
Right.
First thought wrong. You ever run a yellow light and the guy in front of you doesn't, Daniel?
Yeah.
What's your first thought?
You should have gone.
Is it kind? Fair?
Yeah. No.
We're all child of the same universe. He's very cautious. Thank you for the reminder. Yellow means caution. Thank you, sir. No, I want his family dead in a fucking house fire, Daniel. Because I don't like people. Did I mention that? I got neighbors. That's my window's open in the back, the balcony. I got neighbors that think I got bodies in the crawl space, man. I swear to God, because they'll hear me do stuff like this or rehearse, and it's just foul. First thought wrong comes out. Here's an antidote for the first thought wrong. If you're new or old or in between, and I use this one consistently, that first thought, wrong direction, wrong GPS, wrong reaction, wrong words, inappropriate, inconsiderate, inhuman, ungrateful, for some wrong direction. First thought wrong. I don't want to go to work today. I'll call in sick and lie. First thought wrong. I'll tell my kids something that's not true because I don't want them to think I'm weak. First thought wrong. I'll exaggerate my stats so they think I'm a better player. That kind of thing. That happens in the entertainment business all the time. I remember early on, somebody said, "You done any TV?" I go, "Oh yeah." They said, "What'd you do?" And I just make something up.
Yeah.
Because I'm brand new. I've been doing comedy 8 months, and I don't want them to think I suck.
Right.
Well, that didn't last very long. That phase of my lying about where I've been, because it was too hard to sleep that night.
Right.
And I know if I'm dishonest, I'm already in relapse and I haven't drank yet. So I forgot what I was going to tell you now. First thought wrong. The antidote for first thought wrong, at least a short term, is do the opposite.
Exactly. Yeah.
Listen.
Quite often, that's the best thing for me to do.
And
even today,
it's a shortcut, but shortcuts get a bad reputation. Shortcuts can mean I saved myself 15 minutes of vacillating, wondering back and forth whether to pop that guy in the jaw or leave it alone. What I did was I didn't make a fist. My first thought was make a fist. Listen, we're in Safeway, which is now unsafe way. You know what I mean? And he just made a comment about something, and I don't like him immediately. Don't know him, don't like him. But guess what? He's got a ponytail in a fight. That's a fucking handle, Daniel. So I'm going to hook him. And I'm no tough guy. I've lost thousands of fights. I've been in thousands of fights. I've lost most of them. But the second thought can be the opposite of the first, which is don't hit anybody.
Right.
That's a safe place to take a breath. Airbags full. You got airbags in your car, right?
I do.
Your wife have her own car?
She does.
Okay. So she's got airbags, you got airbags.
That's right.
So in a separate life, separate travel, separate lanes, you guys can protect yourselves because those airbags. You can do that with your lungs too. Those are airbags. They inflate to protect us before we hit something. That's the difference between lungs and airbags in a car. Or Car airbags, they got to be triggered. You got to hit something first.
Right.
There's got to be a threat first. Present, bang. Uh-oh, now we're protected because there's a collision. The lungs will prevent that initial collision. They expand. I slow down. I think a third or fourth or 15th thought. And all of a sudden, instead of my kid saying, Grayson, I told you not to do that, I say, hey, can I ask you a question? What were you thinking? It's a really good way to be a dad. Or a partner. And I got 2 ex-wives that'll tell you this is all late stage development from our life. Yeah. I don't even date now, Daniel. I got 2 full-time jobs. I don't date. I have a kid to raise. When I'm home, Grayson lives with me. When I'm on the road, he lives with Julie. And so he's got 2 homes, 2 of most stuff, and he bounces back and forth. But when I'm home, I'm a full-time dad. And that's a lot of work, I found out when I started doing that. I got 3 kids from 3 different moms. I used to do a lot of poking locals, when I was touring. But I have a if that sounded harsh or uncaring to somebody, I'll 10-step. I'll apologize right now. It's a frivolous, silly thing to say about an arrogant lifestyle I used to have. And I'm aware of that, right? I've been to SA for a long time, Sex Anonymous. Actually, I don't go inside. I help people relapse in the parking lot, but that's just when you start to like me, right? Okay. So if that wasn't too coarse, there's certain things we get to do that work, and that way over and over, expecting different results is a good thing. You do enough of these, you do 60, 70, 90 shows. It's going to be like falling off a truck, and your passion will grow. I can tell. You're not the one who's going to burn out. You're going to have a different set of equipment. You're going to have a different studio. You're going to build something, do something. You're going to have a podcast that goes outside of recovery. You're going to, honest to God, you have that kind of, that's the read I get. A lot of us burn ourselves out because we feel like we have to. You won't, and I won't, because we feel like we get to.
Right. Yeah, that's, I mean, this being able to talk with folks like yourself, and we've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try to wind us on down. But
it's kind of like my wedding night.
Mine was 3, but that's a whole nother
show.
But I forget what I was even saying. No, that's the joy and the beauty about this podcast is, I don't need to do this in order to survive. I don't need this in order to put food on the table. This is absolutely a joy to be able to do. And if we can help, we talk about this on every episode. If we can help one person to not do one of the things that we did while we were drinking and using, then all of this is a complete success. So
and that's the shortcuts. That's the shortcuts. I'm a wordsmith. I since I was a little boy, I knew how to put words together that created fiction that was more attractive or safe than reality.
Right.
Now, I could be a huge liar. I'm very good with words, but that's the misuse of a gift. If I shift my gift from misuse to useful, now I get to thrive, right? I could sell guns to nuns. I'm that slick, but I don't want to be that guy. I want to do this for a living. I want to create craft language or pictures or images or stories or jokes that have an impact, that go right through somebody's neck or right through the center of their chest, or include them in our lives with a story that is maybe fictional. If you want to write a 3-page treatment and send it to Paramount Pictures, you might get a development deal. You spend 3 days lying, you get no deal.
Right.
It's the same gift, right? So the wordsmith thing levels, the wordsmith thing shortcuts, the wordsmith thing first thought wrong. Those are all things I use every day. It's not just to sell something. The book's called Shortcuts. I don't care if they buy it. I've got tons of stuff on YouTube. There's more stuff on there I'm too humble to tell you about, but it's stuff I wrote. Did I just lie? It's stuff I wrote, but I told you about it. You see that? I'm too humble to tell you about it. But here, let me tell you about it. But there's original content that each addict brings to the recovery world because they have a different dialect, slightly different dialect of the same experience we all have. That's why they tell you to do experience, strength, and hope. Tell it what it was like, what happened, what's like now. Okay, there's that basic framework, but basically we all did the same thing. We used when it was working, we used when it didn't work, we used after it really harmed us, and we kept using. And pretty soon we're empty, and the bottle's empty, the bag's empty, and the behavior's empty, and we're empty. So that's the commonality. But how we tell it, the longer around, the more original the story becomes. Because not everybody gets past a year. Most people do not. The numbers are frightening.
Right.
Most people don't get 1 year. Most people don't get here at all. But it's like the languages we speak. If you go to the South, you ever travel in the southern states?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they say y'all.
Yeah.
Right? Y'all. If you're in Pittsburgh, they say yins. It means the same thing.
Right.
They don't say y'all, they say yins. Yins can mean one or more than one, which is really confusing. You all is a contraction. I mean, y'all is a contraction for you all. It could be just you. And I remember traveling to Alabama for the first time. I was in Birmingham working at a club. And this lady, I was at a Waffle House after the show by myself. She goes, y'all want a table? I said, well, it's only me. And she goes, that's what I said. I said, well, oh, y'all means me? She goes, y'all means you, sugar. I said, okay, let's all of us get a table. And she laughed like, this guy, holy Christ, you better tip, right? But the dialects of language of recovery, the dialects of forgiveness, the dialects of self-ownership, of self-care, the dialects can be different in different parts of the country, the world, but we're all speaking the same language. I'm the most important person in my life, just like Daniel is. Now there's two people who aren't second place to anybody.
Right.
That's not selfish, it's self-care. That's not self-centered, it's centered self. There's a way to do this and hand it to the newcomer, so it's a brand new thing for them to swallow instead of, no, I'll spend 5 years trying to figure it out by myself.
Right.
That's what this podcast, I hope, does.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you if they want to talk, or how they can, where's your website?
Did I mention I don't like people? Thank you. No, in all honesty, listen, I say that kind of tongue in cheek. There's a couple of ways, honest to God. My direct email is addictedplay@gmail.com. I don't give that out on every podcast, but my gut said it would be okay. Addictedplay@gmail.com. That's private. Nobody reads that one but me. I got 3 other ones that people. I got people, and then there's wholehearted.org. Wholehearted.org. That is a nonprofit website for mental health professionals.
Okay.
We've got the best content: Gabor Mate, Claudia Black, Brene Brown, Mark Lundholm, TJ Woodward. We're all on there. And it's the best mental health website for mental health professionals. The content, they can get CEs, they can use it to entertain their patients. There's family stuff on there, wholehearted.org. And then the last one is recoverybookstore.com. Okay. Recoverybookstore.com. That's where you find the book and miles and miles of other stuff. So thanks for being very, very generous with your time today, Daniel. You did great.
Thank you. I cannot thank you so much enough. And you're an incredible dude. Keep it up. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great night, everyone.